Today I'm talking about our continual war with Amalek. Now, one of the truths I've discovered as I get older and more mature in my faith is that it's not always what it physically seems to be to my eyes. As a neighbour who is not particularly pleasant with me, or somebody in the supermarket who offends me and is angry with me. Why is this? And the Lord reminds me, you do not battle with flesh and blood, but with spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6:10. And I'm starting to realise this more and more. Whenever I find myself in a conflict situation, I say to the Holy Spirit, what is the Spirit attacking me? Now let's recall a little bit historically. When David faced Goliath, it wasn't a physical fight between a huge 10-foot tall giant and a teenage boy. That was just what was visible to the assembled armies. Superficially, it seemed completely impossible for David to win. But as we read the pre-battle words that were said, we see what the real fight was about. The Philistine looked about and saw David, and he scorned him and despised him. And he said, "Am I a dog that you should come to me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, "Come to me, I'm going to give your flesh to the birds of the air." And David said to the Philistine, "You come to me with a sword and a spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the ranks of Israel. The Lord will deliver you in my hand. I will smite you, cut off your head, and give the corpses of your army to the birds of the air." That all the Israel, all the people of the earth, all Israel and all the assembly will know that the Lord does not save with sword and spear, because the battle is the Lord's and he'll give you into our hands. That's 1 Samuel 17:42 to 47. We see quite clearly the contest was between the Philistine God and the Lord of hosts. That was no contest. Now, knowing this, David was confident, and he made declarations of faith even before he launched the stone from his sling. That stone had a supernatural guidance system straight for the forehead of Goliath. As I said, when we face our battles, we need to discern what is the root spirit behind the attack. On our finances, what is this? What is this attack on my health or on my relationships? And it could easily be the envious spirit of Amalek. Look out for it. Now, more examples from Israel's history include, as the nation started up a new phase of development under the anointed king Saul, that was the first king, the prophet Samuel had told Saul, "Okay, you're now the king. This is your top priority. The Lord sent me to anoint you as king over his people. Now listen and heed the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I have considered and I will punish what Amalek did to Israel, how he set himself against him in the way when Israel came out of Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek, utterly destroy all that they have. Do not spare them. Kill man, woman, infant, suckling, ox, sheep, camel and donkey." That's in 1 Samuel 15, 1 to 3. So just having been crowned king, with oil still on his hair, Saul was given his assignment: exterminate the Amalekites. Their army with Agag, their king, was in front of Saul, who obediently attacked them. But he failed to kill the best of the sheep, and he failed to kill the king. Now, Saul may have considered this as a humanitarian act of mercy. That's not how Samuel saw it. The word of the Lord came to Samuel and said, "I regret making Saul king, for he has turned back from following me and has not performed my commands." 1 Samuel 15:10. Now, about 38 years later, all that time went by, David took over the kingdom. At the time that Samuel was talking to Saul, David was not even born. But later, just before David was going to have his coronation and be crowned king, the Amalekite spirit was still causing distress. And David was distraught when his camp at Ziklag was plundered by the Amalekites. They kidnapped his wives and took away much loot, but he strengthened himself in the Lord, and the Lord told him through the prophet, "Go and pursue and overtake and rescue the hostages." Just one final, that was in 1 Samuel 30 verses 18 to 20, by the way. Just one final example in the book of Esther. We see that this ancient rivalry once more reared its ugly head when Mordecai, a Benjaminite like Saul, faced off against Haman, the Agagite. He was a descendant of the Amalekite king, but the beautiful Queen Esther fasted and persuaded the king to help her save her people. And this deliverance from Haman is celebrated by the Jews every year in the Feast of Purim. Now, this hatred of the Jewish people is attributed to many different social and political reasons. Politicians and international statesmen crisscross the world in their planes, trying to impose peace talks on the hostile nations surrounding Israel. The modern name for this hatred is anti-Semitism. It's a new title for an age-old problem. But whether modern-day Jews understand why they're hated, their rabbis could explain. It's clear in the ancient scriptures. It's also clear to us as Christians why we're hated in our families and communities. Yeah, we get hated. Here was Christ's answer. It's straightforward and simple. I'm commanding you to love one another. Christians, love your brother, love your sister. If the world hates you, know that it hated me before it hated you. If you belong to the world would treat you with affection and would love you as its own. But because you're not of the world, because I have chosen you out of the world hates and detests you. John 15 and verses 17 to 19. So let's stay full of God's love. That's what he commanded us to do, and the hatred of the world will just bounce off.